men who have chose to date or marry outside of their race. They always feel like they have to go the extra mile to prop up the woman that they're married or the woman that they're with over black women by denigrating black women.
But keep my family and my wife out of it. That's a boundary that should always be respected, man. Always. Ryan Clark personally attacking
Pivot podcast, and he was talking about his kids. And as he described his kids, and this is the first time I ever knew this, heard of this, he described them by their color and complexion, but he also talked about one kid, his oldest kid, that was biracial. And I never knew that Ryan Clark had a white baby mother. Now, knowing that, it makes a ton of sense in terms of his social commentary, especially on racial issues.
Okay, so obviously I'm a little bit late to this one here, but you guys know me. When it comes to Ryan Clark, I just cannot resist. However, I do think there's a lot of misconceptions here with this take, so make sure you guys bear with me on this. And I'm talking about misconceptions from, the fact that black men dating black women tend to put their white wives on pedestals to denigrate black women, which I think is a little bit far-fetched, while at the exact same time, well, far-fetched is a bit of a very, very weird way of putting that, but still at the same time, though, I think there's another explanation that can be given that I think does, in fact, extend back to what Ryan Clark was hinting at, while at the exact same time, we need to ask the question if the reason why Ryan Clark said what he said was because he's just good old-fashioned insecure. Or it could be what I have always asserted, which is that I think that Ryan Clark is, let's just say not exactly the sharpest tool in the shed. Don't worry, we shall be exploring that over the course of this video, but how in the world did we get here? Well, from what you guys are seeing right here in the B-roll footage, it's obviously that block that was, not really a block, but that foul that Caitlin Clark laid on Angel Reese this past week in the Indiana Fever game versus Chicago. Now, obviously, the WNBA, they are now looking at the Caitlin Clark situation, and they want to, let's just say, they want to capitalize on this. Or maybe they really and truly do not want to capitalize on this, because at this moment in time, we are getting word at this, and like I said, I'll link the article in the description box for you guys, but it is currently being reported that the WNBA is considering silencing fans, meaning that they're not going to be allowed to boo. Political correctness run amok because certain people cannot handle any form of criticism. There was also this other moment where apparently Angel Reese was trying to go for a free throw, and the Indiana Fever crowd, they booed her or something like that.
And then Chicago will maintain the basketball. Reese misses.
I hate to tell you this, but when you go to the opposing team's facility, chances are they are probably going to boo you. They are probably going to boo the opposing team or try to distract them. It's just kind of sort of the way things are. Now, but still at the same time, though, it's the enemy's you're going into enemy territory, obviously, as a road, as somebody, as a visitor, okay? You're obviously going to be going into enemy territory, so therefore you should obviously expect that. Good old-fashioned, suck it up, buttercup, this right here is the way the game is played. Yeah, you probably need to do that. You probably need to learn to take some criticism. And, of course, to go on top of that, need I remind you guys of all the time that Caitlin Clark got pushed around last year, in particular by Angel Reese. Now, this take, of course, this take right here, has got more to do with the fact that RG3 feels threatened that Ryan Clark went after him because he is married to a white woman. So let us go ahead and get to that. So how did this entire thing start? Well, let me go ahead and play the initial things, or a nice little clue montage of what RG3 initially said, which of course you guys obviously heard some of that at the very beginning. Let me go ahead and replay it for you guys again, and then we'll get to Ryan Clark. So here we go.
All of you know there's a line in life that you just simply don't cross. Wives and children are always off limits, and Ryan Clark has sprinted past that line. Ryan Clark didn't like my sports take that Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark, and that's fine. It's okay. It's part of the game. Sports media, I'm going to have an opinion. This person might not agree with it. That person might not agree with it. But what you don't do is turn around and personally attack me and my family just because you don't agree with a sports opinion that is purely based off the sport. I didn't make it personal. But what that really shows is just how low of a person Ryan Clark is. You made it personal and some. I really believe there should be no space in sports media for personal attacks. Ryan, you attacked me and my family in a public forum on a level that shows just how low of a human being you are. You can disagree with me all you want. Challenge my takes, but keep my family and my wife out of it. That's a boundary that should always be respected, man. Always. Ryan Clark personally attacking me and my family because he disagreed with my sports opinion is a bad look for ESPN. It's cowardly, it's spineless, and it's weak. Ryan Clark personally attacking me and my family. Personally because he disagreed with my sports opinion is a bad look for him as a man. I hope you get the help you need, brother.
Okay, and of course, what you're seeing right here in the B-roll footage is what Ryan Clark had said. I'll play some for you guys here in a second, but I want to go ahead and say something really quick. Just say something very, very quick, because there's a lot of misconceptions about this situation. You've got people out there saying that RG3 was calling for Ryan Clark to get fired. I did not hear that. We shall get to that here in a second. Of course, it immediately got out there that RG3 was calling for Ryan Clark to get fired from his job. I didn't hear that, but like I said, we'll get to that here in a second. And then, of course, Ryan Clark's actual take. Now, guys, the full take that Ryan Clark had was roughly 4 minutes long. I'll link it in the description box. It's the clip that got shared the most. But, of course, the episode of the Pivot Podcast, I may just link the whole thing there. And, of course, you guys know me. I'm always here to point out when Ryan Clark is wrong. However, I have also very, very rarely pointed out that he is actually correct in some cases, like in the case of the LeBron James, Stephen A. Smith situation. Now, we have talked about Ryan Clark a lot, and I want to go ahead and tell you guys right now that the bit that he talked about, did not sound bad. It really did not until he got to the part that set RG3 off, which I shall play for you now.
To what black women deal with a lot from black men who have chose to date or marry outside of their race. They always feel like they have to go the extra mile to prop up the woman that they're married or the woman that they're with over black women by denigrating black women. I feel like we should have an opportunity to move past that and understand that Angel Reese can be great in her own right, as Caitlin Clark is as well. Caitlin Clark is a likable and lovable superstar. She pays homage to the stars of the past. She pays homage to the black women that have come before her, and now she is carrying the mantle forward. So there's no need to pin those two against each other and paint them based on...
Well, gee, Ryan, you do this all the time. You try to pit people against one another based upon the topic of race. Now, gang, you're going to hear me talk about this a little bit later on in the video, but I think what really set this entire thing off was the fact that RG3's wife was in the background in his original take on this, which I will link in the description box. I only played a small smidgen of it at the very, very beginning. But I think that that's what really set this entire thing off. But we'll get to that here in a second. Okay, so we got to put our white wives on pedestals. Is that denigrating black women? I don't think it is, because I don't think it's maliciously trying to denigrate black women, but we shall get to that here momentarily. You guys know how I do my videos. It takes a little while for me to get the point. Ryan Clark is probably not in a position to talk. Ryan Clark has a child that is mixed. Nothing against that at all. I'll even give you guys my personal thoughts on interracial marriages here soon, probably over the course of this video, because obviously we've got Jason Whitlock and Marcellus Wiley to speak about here in a second as well, because I think Marcellus Wiley actually nailed it, but we'll get to that here soon. But the point is this right here. RG3 obviously was birthed by a black woman. RG3, during his response to Ryan Clark, mentioned the fact that he had sisters who were in fact black, because his mother was obviously married to, because RG3 is obviously black, so therefore he came from a black man. But RG3 has been married to two separate white women. the one he is married to now, which, by the way, I can't blame him for, showcasing her. I mean, this woman is absolutely beautiful. The previous girl was good looking. I mean, I am obviously white, so therefore I'm going to find white girls more attractive. But I'll give you guys my thoughts on the interracial stuff right here towards the end of the video. Don't worry, I will. The thing is this right here. I don't believe RG3 is putting her on a pedestal, but then again, at the same time, though, I also think that RG3, who, by the way, was also and still kind of is to a certain degree kind of woke himself, I don't think RG3 was thinking clearly when he put his wife, or when his wife was behind him on the phone while he was criticizing the situation between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. Now, me personally, I think whether Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark or not, I don't think that is actually relevant, because I believe that in reality, I believe it was good old-fashioned sports play. That's what I personally think it is, even though there are some that will point back to the national championship game where Angel Reese went out of her way to completely annoy Caitlin Clark the entire game. But of course, that right there was actually in response to some of Caitlin Clark's antics. Let us be fair about this. I think it's a good old-fashioned basketball play, and I do believe that there is a little bit of jealousy there. But of course, at the same time, though, I don't think that it's so much jealousy because of who Caitlin Clark is, but maybe because of some of the, let's just say, some of the praise the girl shall get, which of course the girl for the most part has earned. Go back to what you guys saw in the B-roll footage, because the second half of that is her basically persevering through all the BS that she's had to deal with since she's been in the WNBA. The point is this right here. This right here is a situation that did not need to get racial. This right here was completely and totally a sports play, and this is one of the biggest problems that we have with sports, is the fact that we have people out there, the wokesters, who obviously want to make everything racial when, quite frankly, it should not be racial. Sports is designed to bring us together. Kwame Brown actually had a very, very good take on this. I'll link it in the description box. About 12 minutes long. Kind of funny too, but also very, very truthful. Sports is designed to bring people together, not divide them. But once again, here we are being divided by false narratives. Now, I did mention RG3, and I did mention RG3's response and how it is that a lot of people are saying that RG3 called for Ryan Clark to get fired. Now, I want to reiterate one more thing before I play this bit that I had to edit up, because it is kind of long-winded. It's 2 minutes and 20 seconds, but it just comes off as long-winded. Don't worry, it'll be linked in the description box. You guys can see for yourselves exactly what he said. But I don't think that he was thinking when he had his wife behind him in the background. As a matter of fact, there's actually a moment during RG3's critique of the Angel Reese Caitlin Clark situation where his wife even kind of looked up and was kind of like, uh-huh. Well, a lot of that's probably because RG3's wife was an athlete too. At least his second wife was. Or his second wife was at one time. She's from Estonia, and she also is an athlete, like I just mentioned, and therefore she would know the difference between something that is athletic versus something that is quote-unquote racial. The spirit of competition, which it is, but at the same time, though, ESPN at this moment in time, well, I would say since about 2015, they haven't exactly been ashamed of their bad looks. Just simply saying they've gone full-blown political. It's almost like watching BET. The point is this right here. He never called for the man to get fired. He basically just simply said that, I hope you go get help. There was also this bit right here that went viral shortly after this, where apparently there's this video on a cruise where you have RG3's mom hanging out with his mother-in-law. Obviously, his mother-in-law is white. RG3's mom is black. And yeah, people went ahead and kind of tried to assert that RG3 was going out of his way to troll Ryan Clark. But then again, though, at the same time, though, in a way he kind of was, especially given the fact that apparently some products got sold shortly after this, and they got a bit of a boost to their side business. So it looks to me like in the long run, RG3 may have gotten a bit of a moral victory here. But still, though, the point is this right here. Why in the world would Ryan Clark do this? Well, the truth is this right here. Ryan Clark is not exactly somebody who shies away from being a complete, total, idiot. This is just who the hell he is. I mean, we've talked about this on several occasions. Lots of very, very bad narratives. I think a lot of them are fake. I think a lot of them are also ignorant. I mean, he understands he's obviously got to keep up appearances even on the Pivot podcast, which makes me wonder if all these shows don't work in tandem, which I'm pretty sure they will. This also includes Stephen A. Smith's podcast as well, who, if he was actually free of ESPN, he would still have very, very much a strong following. But the point is this right here. Why in the world, with your background, with your baggage, would you suddenly decide to attack a man based upon the fact that his wife seems to be white? Well, I think that Marcellus Wiley, when he went on Jason Whitlock the other day, I think he said it best, so let me go ahead and get to that. The overall segment's right around 2 minutes and 30 seconds. I'm going to butt in a couple of times to kind of provide some additional commentary, and then I'll give you guys what I think on the overall end, and even give you guys my personal thoughts on the whole interracial bit, which I'm pretty sure some of you are dying to hear, especially those out there who think that This guy right here, Mr. Claymore, Mr. Paul, Mr. Lofton, whatever you might want to call me, is an ardent racist when obviously, as a man from the South, there's no way I can be racist because we are very, very diverse and we work with one another like crazy, and therefore no racism exists in me, even though you may think it does, but let's get to it.
Their identity racially, whether it's they've been questioned before, they journey to the other side, whatever it may be, they have an insecurity. What happens is a lot of times they want to go out there and overcompensate for their blackness. They want to double down on their black card because they went through that racial identity crisis. And that just sums up Ryan Clark to me in a nutshell in terms of this issue and a lot of the times when we see him racially pandering. He just has this conversation always slanted towards race, even when it's not necessary. So coming at RG3 and really using his wife as a conduit to get to RG3 and undermining his blackness, I thought was out of bounds. So, you know,
I agree with a lot of what Marcellus is saying, but I'll get to it a little bit more closer towards the end of the video. But I think there's also something else here that people have, for the most part, forgotten about when it comes to Ryan Clark. But I shall get to that here in a second. Cowardly, too. And here's the thing. You know, RG3 is not exactly the orator of great takes. I mean, he really is not. I remember, I think it was like a year or so ago. I think it was about 2 years ago. RG3 suggested that the Dallas Cowboys fire their head coach Mike McCarthy, get rid of Dak Prescott, and bring in Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders to be the new head coach. I mean, RG3 is not exactly an orator of quote unquote great takes. That's what I'm trying to say. And if Ryan Clark is intelligent, or if he's super intelligent or more intelligent than RG3, don't you guys think that maybe don't you think, guys, that maybe Ryan Clark could have articulated his points a little bit better without going after RG3 and his wife? I mean, just figure I'd put that out there. But let's get back to Marcellus.
And at the same time, you know, hopefully Ryan Clark will understand that he could attack these issues for the issue and not for trying to attack somebody's character because of their marital choice.
It's very few people are like me, unmarried and have no kids. And so that gives me a freedom to be, I think, more transparent because I ain't got no kids and I'm sitting out there, well.
Now, I would fully agree with Marcellus that Ryan is just completely and totally insecure. But then again, at the same time, though, this is kind of the king of bad takes. This is also the king of getting political whenever it suited him best. So it might have just been a good old-fashioned, how do I say this? It feels more to me like RG3 may have just been the guy to steal on here. And it sort of backfired. And backfired in a way that Ryan Clark probably did not think that it would. I mean, insecurity is definitely something that I think that Marcellus is, he's close to about. But I don't fully agree with that because Ryan Clark has a history of having such god-awful bad takes. And not only a history of god-awful bad takes and being political, he also has a history of being a hypocrite. I don't think that Ryan Clark thinks that his audience even cares, but then again, at the same time, though, that has also got a lot to do with false confidence and hubris, of which Mr. Clark is definitely full of. I mean, it didn't take long for people to jump on him after the whole last Aaron Rodgers beef that he had, which I thought Ryan ended up looking like a bit of a coward on. For people to look into that and find out that the person who was actually having a worse year than Aaron was Deshaun Watson. Even though Deshaun Watson was also injured a good portion of the year, when you actually found out that the two were represented by the same agent, that right there being Deshaun Watson and Ryan Clark, things then began to make a whole lot more sense. I'm not going to sit here and say that insecurity is the real issue, even though I do believe insecurity has got something to do with it. I just think that Ryan Clark just simply was an idiot here once again and just showed you exactly how much hubris he had in him. But if you really sit down and think about it, you got to ask yourself a question, especially when it comes to this particular topic. Don't you think maybe it's possible that RG3 just prefers white girls? I mean, look, you guys are going to hear my take here in a second, okay? I'm just simply throwing out there maybe he prefers snow bunnies. And obviously Ryan Clark preferred snow bunnies at one point in time too, or else he would not have a mixed child. It really sounds more hypocritical, more cowardly, and at the same exact time, it's really kind of a cheap way to get views. I mean, all you got to do is just look into his past. I mean, there was this question, I mean, right around the time that whole Shannon Sharp thing blew up, whether he should even have a voice amongst black men in the black community, because he obviously is getting sued by a quote-unquote 20-year-old snow bunny. One who I personally think has some possible mental issues based upon the nature of how they met, and then to go on top of that, based upon the way her voice was during that phone call, the one that was leaked. Yeah, it just seems to me like this right here is just completely and totally hypocritical out of Mr. Clark, and also to go on top of that, completely and totally out of bounds and quite frankly cowardly. But of course, there does come the whole conversation of race mixing itself, so let us go ahead and get to that. When you get older, if you've not been married, after a while things begin to change. I've always believed that regardless what your age is, even if you're like 75, 80 years old, if you're able-bodied and still moving around, you should still try to do something. But also at the same time, though, I also believe that you should always be ready as a man just in case a family does in fact pop up, meaning that you get the opportunity of creating a family. Yeah. I mean, I hate to say this, but Bill Belichick being 73 years old, and I've already given you guys my thoughts on his situation with Jordan Hudson, it's being reported that they're actually engaged, and you never know, a child could even be had, as old and as wiggly and as creepy as it is. Mick Jagger's in his 80s, and I had a kid 15 years ago. Al Pacino just had one. I'm just simply saying to you that you should always be ready for the possibility of kids, especially if you live a lifestyle, or especially if you are single and you happen to hook up with a woman. Point is this right here. You should always be ready just in case. But I did want to give you guys my actual thoughts on the whole race mixing thing. My issue is really more the fact that I'm more or less against gay marriage than anything else than I am the whole race mixing thing. Now, obviously, as a white guy in the South, I'm much, much more traditional, and I obviously prefer white women. And I obviously prefer women that are, not as melanated as you guys can obviously see. But still, though, at the same time, though, I'm not opposed to mixed couples or mixed marriages. I never have been. Never will be. If the two people can get along just fine, then go right ahead. Even though in this day and age, we are seeing a lot of red flags there, of which, by the way, they are all valid. And I would advise you to think long and hard before you choose to do that. And if you have your own insecurities, then yes, if you feel like you are insecure about the situation, then probably you should not pursue it. The fact of the matter is I'm not exactly against the race mixing thing. It's just the way that I was raised. Obviously, I'm much, much more traditional, but at the same time, though, obviously I have preferences myself. I personally like white girls. I like girls who are Italian, European descent, obviously, and obviously ladies who are a little bit more, how do I say, of the Latin variety. That doesn't mean that there are not beautiful black women out there. Obviously, they do, in fact, exist. I think Beyonce Knowles is a very, very attractive black woman. My God, Tyra Banks, man, you guys should go take a look at her when she was much, much younger. Whitney Houston was a good-looking woman when she was younger. As far as marriage and starting a family, though, no, I would kind of like to keep it within the European realm. And yes, Latin America does, to a certain degree, kind of qualify as the European realm because, of course, they extend back to Spain. Still, though, like I said before, not exactly against the whole race mixing notion. I don't frown upon that. But still, though, at the same time, though, if you have some insecurities, then you probably should not go for the other, just simply saying. If you feel like you got to work that type of stuff out, but I'm not going to beat you up if you are attracted to the opposite race. Just simply saying. It's the same-sex crap that I got a problem with. Still, though, at the same time, you guys say what you think in the comment section. We'd love to hear what you guys have got to say. Please hit the like button, subscribe, share, sign off in the comments. I'll see you guys later.